The rain had already stopped, but the parking lot still reflected the white glow of the grocery store sign like broken glass. Ethan sat inside his car staring at his phone. His credit score had dropped 27 points. Not because he missed a payment, not because he went into debt, not because he bought something reckless. He had done exactly what every financial expert tells people to do. He used his credit card responsibly. He paid the full balance, he paid on time. Actually, he paid early. And somehow, the system still punished him. That's the moment this stops being about financial responsibility and starts becoming about understanding the machine hidden underneath it. Because what most Americans call a credit score isn't really a score. It's a behavioral surveillance system disguised as a financial safety metric. And almost nobody understands how the timing mechanism inside that system actually works. Not even people with excellent credit. My name is Theo, and I spend way too much time thinking about why financially responsible people keep getting trapped by invisible systems they were never properly taught to see. If you're someone who pays your bills, tries to be responsible, avoids financial chaos, and still sometimes feels like the system quietly moves the goalposts anyway, hit like and subscribe if this video helps you. Because tonight, we need to talk about something most people discover only after the damage is already done. The calendar inside the credit system is fake. Or at least fake in the way most people think it works. And once you see it, you'll never look at credit cards the same way again. Here's what happened to Ethan. 3 weeks earlier, he bought a laptop for work. Then a plane ticket to visit family. Then groceries, gas, a hotel reservation. Nothing unusual. His total balance climbed to around $2,300 on a card with a $5,000 limit. Still manageable, still safe, still temporary. Ethan wasn't worried because Ethan believed the same thing millions of Americans believe. As long as I pay the card off before the due date, everything is fine. That sentence sounds reasonable. The system depends on that sentence sounding reasonable. Because technically, it's true in one dimension, interest. But the invisible part of the system isn't measuring interest. It's measuring snapshots. And this is where the architecture changes. Most people imagine their credit card like a live security camera continuously watching responsible behavior. It's not. It's more like an old surveillance photographer taking random snapshots at strange moments in the month. Then sending those pictures into a scoring algorithm that judges your financial identity. Not your intentions. Not your discipline. Not your future payment. The snapshot. Only the snapshot. And Ethan never realized the system took the picture before he paid the balance down. So the algorithm saw something completely different from reality. It didn't see a responsible adult temporarily using available credit before paying it off. It saw utilization. 46% utilization. A ratio high enough to trigger risk signals inside the scoring model. For a few weeks, Ethan looked statistically similar to people under financial stress. Even though he wasn't. That's the unsettling part. Credit systems are not emotional. They are not contextual. They are not fair in the human sense. They are probability engines. Cold ones. The algorithm doesn't ask, can Ethan handle this responsibly? It asks, what patterns historically correlate with risk? And this is where millions of people unknowingly walk into the trap. Because credit card companies train consumers to focus on the due date. But the scoring system often cares far more about the statement closing date. Those are not the same thing, not even close. And buried quietly between those two dates is one of the strangest little invisible pressure systems in modern finance. The reporting window, the hidden snapshot, the behavioral photograph. This is the part almost nobody explains clearly. Because financial education in America often teaches people rules, without teaching people system architecture. The difference matters a lot. Imagine two people. Same income, same purchases, same credit limit, same exact spending. Person A pays the balance after the statement closes but before the due date. Person B pays most of the balance before the statement closes. To a normal human being, these people are identical. To the algorithm, they can look completely different. One appears highly utilized. The other appears low risk and controlled. Same money, different snapshot. And hidden inside that difference is one of the most psychologically manipulative aspects of the modern credit system. Because the machine rewards appearances of stability more consistently than actual stability itself. That sounds dramatic. Until you realize how much of modern finance works exactly that way. Mortgage approvals, insurance pricing, loan offers, credit limits. all increasingly shaped by invisible scoring systems interpreting fragmented behavioral snapshots. Not your full life. Fragments. Tiny photographs from hidden angles. Now pause here, because this is where most people emotionally misunderstand the problem. They think, so the system is rigged. Not exactly. That framing is too emotional, too simple. The system is optimized. That's different. Optimization creates strange side effects. A navigation app optimized for speed might send traffic through quiet neighborhoods. A social media algorithm optimized for engagement may amplify outrage. And a credit scoring system optimized for predicting repayment risk can accidentally punish perfectly responsible behavior if that behavior resembles historical risk patterns for even a short period of time. The machine isn't angry at you. The machine doesn't know you exist, and somehow, that almost makes it worse. Because you cannot negotiate with indifference. Now here's where the story gets darker. Most people discover this system backward. Not proactively. Reactively. They discover it after a denied apartment application, after an unexpected interest rate, after a car loan suddenly becomes more expensive, after their score mysteriously drops despite doing everything right, and the emotional effect is powerful because credit scores don't just affect money anymore. They affect identity. People internalize them. A high score feels like adulthood, competence, control. A falling score feels strangely personal, like moral failure. Even when the drop came from nothing more than a reporting snapshot buried between invisible dates, most consumers were never taught to monitor. That emotional confusion creates profit opportunities. Always. Because confused consumers are easier to guide into products. Balance monitoring apps. Premium cards. Credit builder subscriptions. Financial anxiety ecosystems. Modern finance discovered something extremely profitable years ago. People will pay enormous amounts of emotional energy trying to feel financially safe. And the industry quietly monetizes that feeling from every direction. But now we need to go deeper. Because utilization is only part of the story. The real psychological manipulation happens through timing uncertainty. You see, human beings naturally think in monthly cycles. Paycheck, bills, due date, reset, simple, linear. But the financial system increasingly operates through asynchronous invisible cycles happening underneath the user interface. Statement dates, reporting dates, interest accrual timing, algorithm refresh windows, internal risk modeling. Entire hidden calendars running underneath the visible calendar consumers think they're using. And this creates something dangerous: financial fog. A condition where people technically follow the rules, while still losing control of outcomes. That's why so many Americans today feel financially exhausted even when they're behaving responsibly. Because invisible systems create cognitive pressure, constant monitoring, constant uncertainty, constant optimization, not enough to trigger panic. Just enough to create low-grade psychological fatigue over years. And credit cards are masters of this architecture. Not because they're evil, because they're efficient. Remember that. Modern financial systems don't need cruelty to extract profit. They only need asymmetry. The institution understands the system better than the user. That gap alone creates power. Now let's talk about the sentence that traps almost everyone. Just pay your card on time. Sounds harmless. But incomplete information can become dangerous information. Because timing alone isn't the game anymore. Visibility is. What the algorithm sees matters almost as much as what you actually do. And once you understand that, strange behaviors inside the financial world suddenly start making sense. Why wealthy people often keep utilization extremely low even when they could easily pay balances later. Why some people make multiple payments per month. Why score fluctuations sometimes look irrational. Why someone can pay zero interest and still temporarily lose points. You weren't watching a fairness system. You were watching a perception system that changes everything. This is where financially sophisticated people begin separating themselves from financially stressed people. Not necessarily through income, through system awareness. Because once you understand the hidden architecture, your behavior changes. You stop treating credit cards like debt tools. You start treating them like reputation instruments inside algorithmic environments. That sounds cold. It is cold. But modern finance increasingly rewards people who understand the emotional distance required to interact with these systems strategically instead of emotionally. Ethan eventually figured this out, not from his bank, not from school, not from the endless stream of shallow financial advice online. He learned it the way most people learn hidden financial rules. Through confusion first, then obsession, then pattern recognition. He started monitoring statement dates instead of only due dates. Started lowering reported utilization before snapshots occurred. Started realizing that the financial world often responds more to reported behavior than internal intention. And slowly, something psychological changed. The anxiety faded. Because confusion creates helplessness. But pattern recognition creates control. That's the real transformation hidden inside all of this. Not a higher score. Clarity. Once you see the invisible architecture, you stop personalizing every financial outcome emotionally. You stop assuming the system reflects your worth as a human being. You stop confusing algorithmic interpretation with moral judgment. And ironically, that emotional detachment often improves financial decisions dramatically. Because calm people make better system operators. Now let's be very clear about something. This does not mean obsessively chasing a perfect credit score. That becomes another trap, another psychological treadmill, another invisible pressure system consuming your attention. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. There's a huge difference. Perfection creates anxiety. Awareness creates leverage. And leverage is what institutions quietly protect for themselves while giving consumers oversimplified advice designed for mass behavior. That's why the sentence "always pay on time" survives. Because it's directionally correct. But directionally correct is not the same thing as strategically complete. And in the modern financial world, incomplete understanding becomes expensive surprisingly fast. Especially when algorithms are involved, especially when timing is involved, especially when identity becomes attached to numbers generated by invisible systems most people never truly see. So no, never pay your credit card. Like this. Never assume the due date is the only date that matters. Never assume the system sees what you meant to do. And never confuse financial obedience with financial understanding. Those are completely different things. Because the people who quietly gain the most power inside modern financial systems are usually not the people working the hardest. They're the people who finally learned where the hidden cameras were placed, and once you see them, you start moving differently? Thank you so much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to see the latest videos. I wish you success.